So now I think it's time that we go ahead and start rigging up all of our props and extras that we've created. So this piece of the belt, I may have to do most of my blend between the sword bone and the left thigh. So since I want this leather piece to be above the armor, it only makes sense to give that full influence to the thigh bone. Once we get closer to the pelvis area, that's when we'll start needing to do our blending. So in this case, I'm going to be blending between the codpiece bone and the left thigh. So now we need to start focusing on the belts for this chest piece. So I'm going to go ahead and select this element, which looks like a ring piece. It's not full influence to the spine. And then start selecting the top portion of this belt and assigning it to full influence to the spine as well, so it's consistent with the ring that it's attached to. So right now I'm trying to get this belt skinned properly so it's not cutting through the flesh. So I'm basically just copying the information from this vert and I'll paste it to these verts for the belt. So I'm basically just doing the same thing on this whole belt running underneath the arm. Just copying the verts information and pasting it on the belt piece in that general area for that vert. So I can start getting an idea of what I'm looking at here. So I may need to copy the vert information on this vert instead of this one for this part of the belt. And then I need to change the influence on this portion of the belt so it's not cutting through the flesh. So since it's only being influenced by 2 bones, I can either add or subtract until I find a good medium that I like. Really don't want the shoulder bone influencing these belts, so I'm just going to zero that out. I'm just going to go ahead and assign full influence to these belt, to the spine, so I can at least get an idea of what I'm looking at a little bit better instead of having it cut into the flesh and not being able to see it at all. Once I get that done, I'll start looking at the areas that need the blending. So now I'm going to start copying vert information from the verts underneath the arm. I got a pretty solid idea what the vert influence is. Pretty much the 2 bones influencing most of these verts are the upper arm and the spine. So I'm just going to start adding influence myself. Right now I'm trying to just get the skin in as best as I can so that the belt folds over this chest muscle right here and into the armpit as clean as possible. I already know that the two major bones that are influencing this area is the upper arm and the spine bone, so I only need to be concerned with those two bones weighting these verts, so it kind of makes it a little simple. So right now I'm just adding influence to the upper arm. Definitely seeing some distortion here. It's kind of hard to see what's going on sometimes, so I just assign a full influence to a particular bone to help me get an idea at least. Maybe seeing how it moves will help get an idea of what's supposed to be going on. So right now I'm more or less relying on the colors of my weights to make sure that the color of the belt weighting is the same as the flesh portion of the upper arm. And then just increasing and decreasing the influence to see how well it goes. So I'm not liking this dramatic pull of these two verts. So I need to make whatever adjustments I need to make that more appropriate. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on this belt on the front a little bit here. I can see the influence could be between 3 different bones of the spine. But we might be able to make it work between 2. I'm gonna go ahead and add full influence to the spine 2 bone. And I'm actually just put him in this bend over pose and start seeing what it looks like in that pose. I'm gonna go ahead and assign full influence to the pelvis. It seems like the 3 bones that may be manipulating this belt will be pelvis, spine 1 bone, and this spine 2, but I may have to use the spine bone as well. Or maybe not. So right now I'm gonna start focusing on the front portion of this belt right here. Go ahead and select this element of the belt buckle. Start assigning full influence to the spine 2 bone. And go ahead and assign a full influence to the shoulder bone for these little ribbon strips or the leather strips. Try and go through and select the verts for the actual leather portion of this belt buckle. Make sure it's a full influence to the spine, so it's consistent with the belt buckle. I'm just trying to get the scanning on that belt portion to be a little more appropriate. I don't want it cutting through the skin as much as it was when he bends back in that pose. He may not ever be in this pose, but you never know. Seems kind of out of the ordinary to add influence from that particular bone. But whatever makes it works. So the last step that we should do is go ahead and look over our rig and make sure there's no verts that are scanned improper or anything that would look out of the ordinary. So you basically just want to make sure that everything is looking pretty good. So that when you hand it off to the animators, everything is pretty much perfect and they can just start animating on the fly.